What if your healing wasn't in a product, a prescription, or a self help hack, but in the very breath you've been breathing all along? Today's guest, Raj Khedun, is a yogi, wellness coach, and inventor of the 3 to 3 Insomnia Hack, a rapid activation breathing technique that's helped thousands ease anxiety, insomnia, and emotional burnout in under 90 seconds. But Raj's story goes deeper. At just age 18 years old, he encountered a spiritual avatar in India who awakened him to the idea that purpose, presence, and principles aren't just spiritual buzzwords. They are blueprints for living well. In this episode, Raj shares what it really means to live in alignment, how to harness your breath as a bridge to healing, and why saying no might be the most sacred practice you adopt this year. But before we dive into this episode, you already know what time it is. With me, y'all. Welcome to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. Y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast, the safe space where survival mode ends and your healing journey begins. So if you've been pushing through pain, fatigue, bloating, or hormone chaos, I want you to know that your body isn't broken. It's speaking. Welcome to the Good Vibes Studio, Raj.
Wow, Jovonnie, what a dynamic intro. My goodness me. I think that's the most exciting, entertaining intro I've ever been part of. So thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem at all. I guess it's the Healthy Habits and Lifestyle Coach Jovonnie, ready to bring you in and get you on and popping, flowing with the good vibes and the good value, right? So you met a spiritual avatar at the age of 18. Can you take us back to that very moment and how it reshaped your entire understanding of life and purpose?
I absolutely would be happy to. I have to tell you a tiny bit of a Genesis backstory, though, even before that, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll keep, yeah, I'll keep it short. So basically, it all started when I was 3 years old, and my mother takes me to kindergarten or nursery, as we call it in the UK, for the first time. And we get enrolled. We check out, the playgrounds and the classrooms and everything, and then I end up in the library. And the two first books I take off any bookshelf in this life was one about dinosaurs and one about planets. Right. For whatever reason, the images on these books are still imprinted on my mind like it was yesterday. I can remember it that clearly. And for whatever reason, these images have guided me throughout my entire life, more so than my entire education, believe it or not. And it was all started from those two first books in the nursery that my mother took me to. So it's weird. It's so strange how life works out like that. That these themes that you picked up as a kid, they're connected to some crazy big dreams, but you don't realize until later why it was so attractive for you, why it was so magnetically drawing you into that. So I followed these themes even unconsciously about dinosaurs, like evolution. The reason why I was so fascinated by dinosaurs is because they lived 200 million years ago. But what was the reason for them to be there? And they were so huge, and they had small brains and big bodies. And later, as everything evolved, the bodies became smaller and the brains became bigger, right? So I was wondering about this process, and I thought, okay, when it comes to humans, well, I'm a human, you're a human. There's 8 billion humans on this planet. What is that process of evolution through humans? What were we before this, and what are we going to be after we die? Right. So I started then thinking, can we change our own brains? Can we upgrade our own programming? Can we change our own thought processes and become better and more, have a more powerful memory, more wisdom, more insight, more inspiration? I was wondering about those things all the time as a kid. And the planets thing was about, you see these beautiful planets. You see Jupiter, you see Saturn with the rings, you see Venus, you see Mercury, you see Mars. If you go on YouTube now, you can see that the NASA robots on Mars are exploring Mars, and you can see it. There's a red sky, there's a red, rocky ground, rocky ground, but there's no water, there's no plants, And there's no dinosaur bones of any kind on Mars. So you're thinking to yourself, why is there an empty planet next to Earth when Earth is full of life from top to toe? You can't get away from it. 8 billion humans, plus all the animals, all the reptiles, all the whales in the sea, all the birds in the sky, all the other types of animals and crazy fish, the manta rays and the jellyfish and octopus. You think, like, why is this Earth so full of life and Mars has nothing on it? It doesn't make sense, right? So this was kind of like an unconscious journey that I was always wondering about these things, even as a kid. So do you want me to take you to the Avatar story now, or?
Yes, because I'm just thinking, like, I wonder how many other kids were thinking these things. Like, we have the books, we read the books, but how many kids are really being given the space to be that creative and to be that curious in life, in being, in existence through those books? And are they having those conversations and allowing themselves the space and the depth to capture all of that thought or process? So I was just, kind of taking those notes and seeing how you were thinking as a kid from those two books, one on dinosaurs, one on planets. But yeah, you could definitely speak us to that moment, meeting that spiritual. Because now you read more than 2 books at the age of 18 when you're meeting this avatar.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely, spot on, Jovonnie. So the interesting thing is, through school, I basically learned what not to learn. So that was the only point of me going to school, to learn that it's all useless. So, with all respect, you learn to read and write, you do, your arithmetic, your English, and your language, and so on. That's fine. But in terms of character development, in terms of human potential, in terms of things like what is the mind, you're never taught, even for 1 hour in your entire schooling, what is the mind. They even debate whether the mind exists or not. Right? And I'm thinking, how on earth are you going to navigate life without this basic fundamental knowledge? Right? So when I went to India, first time, again, my mother, God bless her, she takes me to India because she's quite spiritual, kind of open-minded, and she likes to travel and see things, new things. So I go along with her, thinking that, oh, India is full of, it's just nonsense, and it's all full of poverty, and it's just messy and horrible. That's what I thought as a Londoner. I was a very obnoxious, rude child, because I don't blame myself, because you're born in a materialistic culture. You get everything on your plate, you take it for granted, right? And I was that kind of annoying, bratty teenager. And I went to India, and I meet this avatar, and he tells me that, look, son, I know why you were so attached to those images on the books as a 3-year-old. I'm like, what? What? How is that? Listen, son, don't worry about it. Avatars like us, we know everything. I'm like, you were watching me the whole time. You were watching me as I was growing from what? And it just blew my mind, all the things he knew about me. And look, they're so powerful, but they don't show off about it. It's normal for them. It's normal. And they know about everyone.
And did you just meet him in passing? Like, you were just walking and he just started having this conversation with you?
No, I went to they have this center, like a spiritual retreat center. And I
Gotcha.
went
Okay.
there. Yeah. There's thousands of people there. And I just went to visit, and I thought I was going to go analyze Avatar, right? Me, as an 18-year-old bratty teenager from London. And he completely flipped my brain upside down, because he said, son, listen, you don't know anything. You think you went to school and you read some school books and you think you know something. You know nothing. You don't know where you come from. You don't know where you're going. You don't know why you're here on this planet. You don't know what happens when you die. And you don't even know how this earth was created. So, son, look, admit you don't know anything. And I was like, oh, shoot. Yeah, you're right. I don't really know anything. And that was a slap to my ego, because I was pretty rude and obnoxious. And just that visit with one avatar completely turned my life upside down.
So I kind of
And
want
he's
to take it right there when you talk about the
yeah,
ego, because I feel like the ego it plays a huge part in how people navigate life, how people process experiences, emotions. When it comes to changing their habits, their lifestyles, like ego is huge. So can we take it there first, Raj, before we even
sure.
kind of shift into like getting into him saying like you don't even know why you're here and what's your purpose, and kind of leading into you talking about every human hair has a purpose. But before we
Sure.
get into purpose living, can you just hit on ego? Why is the ego such a big thing? Why does the ego kind of keeps us in self-sabotage? Why does the ego keeps us in a place where we're stuck and we're unable to really process grief? And like talk a little bit about that ego, Raj, and then give us
Mhm.
a few steps of how we can truly know when it's the ego and when it's the true self, and what we can do to move forward.
That's a deep intro segue into this. But you've asked, so I'm going to give it to you. Um, we all have an ego, and it can prove, very troublesome if we don't understand the way we see things. So when we say, do we think about what we're thinking about? Right? It's a very deep part of yourself. You have to come to a realization at some point. A lot of people have a midlife crisis when they're 35, 45, 55, and they realize, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time. Like, what a mess. What am I doing? I've jeopardized my relationships. I've been rude to people. I didn't show kindness. I didn't say I love people when I should have done. I have all these silly, machinations in my brain forcing me to do the wrong things, and it's not making me happy. I'm getting further and further away from happiness, right? So the ego has a tendency to follow just silly, like whimsical likes and dislikes. That's all it is. Likes and dislikes based on where you were born, your culture, your upbringing, your programming, it's just what society tells you. And especially if you have a material um, consciousness, which is driving you to have more and more possessions and more and more possessions and more money and money and money. And you don't even know why you're doing it, right? If it was to say, I want to be a billionaire because I want to serve homeless people, or I want to help, drug addicts, or I want to help women who, single women who have children and they don't know what to do to make ends meet. That's great. That's a great reason to have money. Fantastic. Because you're going to solve a problem and you're going to feel very glad and deep in your heart that you gathered wisdom, you helped mobilize people's lives, and God, higher intelligence, Jesus, they're going to be very happy with that, and you're going to enjoy your life immensely also. So ego, it has a tendency to follow habit patterns, because humans are creatures of habit. And habits are so insidious that you don't even realize the mental habits you have that are driving you towards specific actions and thought processes and prejudices against people, against your parents, against your in-laws, against your society, and so on and so on and so on. It's layer upon layer and upon layer of confusion, right? And the problem with that is that you can die with it and never even try to undo or unravel the confusion that it's been causing for you, right? So when we say surrender, I've studied all the religions of the world, so I have no problem talking about any of them, whether it's Judaism, Islam, of course, Hinduism, Buddhism, and so on. And if you look at Islam, for example, Islam means surrender. To be a Muslim means to surrender, but we can say surrender to what? Surrender to the higher power, the higher universal cosmic intelligence that has created us, right? So I look at it from several points of view. Ego is something that every human has to deal with in terms of your relationship to either your personal ego, which could be selfish, which can be very, all about me, or will you surrender it willingly to a higher power and do the good for everyone, which includes yourself as well? So this is where ego, unfortunately, in the Western world, you're not trained how to fully navigate. the ego's challenges. And that's why there's so many divorces. That's why there's so many, addicts to substances, substance abuse, um, lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth, lack of vision, lack of inspiration. And so much what pains me is so many people die without even fulfilling even 10% of what they were capable of. Right. And for me, the school system and the government have a lot to answer for. And that's one of the reasons why we come on podcasts every day, and we, as my colleagues say, smash it up in terms of get rid of those old ideas. Stop it. Like, stop doing that. You're not getting anywhere. So I hope that helps shed a little bit of light on your ego question there.
It does. And I like that you talked about it. Ego, the way we see things. And then kind of comparing the person who's more materialistic driven versus those who want to be able to help people solve a problem and be of impact and a purpose. Even when being able to accumulate so many things is for them to be able to give back in a different way and to serve with what they have. But I also like that you said it layers confusion when you're thinking about the ego, and the layers can be deep. So if y'all are still vibing with us in this conversation, just go ahead and drop ego in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're still watching, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And if you listen on your favorite podcast distribution platform, go ahead and hit follow and then leave a show a rating. Give us a good comment and a rating. I like that you talked about surrender. And I feel like the biggest point was every human has to deal with ego. And I feel like that was the big thing. And like you said, you brought up divorces, addicts, people who have a lack of vision, lack of self-esteem, lack of inspiration, and then to die in this life and only have lived up to 10% of your true potential due to the ego keeping you kind of stuck. When it comes to habits, though, Raj, and we'll get into that purpose living. When it comes to habits, how do you help shift your clients when it comes to their ego-driven habits to turn it to something to where they're able to live a healthier life, to make it more productive, to make it more useful for them when it comes to helping them with the quality of life and the state that they're in shift from those ego habit forming patterns?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, and a very good, segue into lifestyle habits that supports positive potential in terms of manifesting your potential and getting into that space. So basically there's some basic fundamentals. You need to know, if you can identify who are you, like ask yourself the question, who am I? Who am I? As simple as that. Who am I? And if you can find yourself able to connect to a higher source or a higher inspiration, do that. Try to connect yourself to something higher and bigger than yourself, whether it's a principle, an art, an ideal, some kind of system of learning, something that's a great ideal for you. Try to do that. If you can go to God straight, then do that. Great. So in terms of lifestyle habits, what you can do is you can first, easy thing is clean up your diet. So if you have bad dietary habits that are causing you illness or discomfort, try to go for a more plant-based diet. Try to eliminate red meat and processed foods, because these cause a lot of issues with the digestive system, the diabetes, respiratory disorders, stress and blood pressure disorders. And you can eliminate quite a lot of that if you just turn to a more plant-based, or I coach my clients to have more vegetarian diet. And some will like that, some won't, and I understand. Some might go flexitarian or pescatarian and have fish instead of meat. And some will say, you know what, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'll go vegetarian and get my energy back and drink more water and exercise more. And I recommend 30 to 45 minutes of exercise daily for everyone, whether you like swimming, whether you like cycling, whether you like martial arts, or some kind of kata forms. I do martial arts myself, um, or just yoga or treadmill or just hiking, going for a walk, anything. As long as you do it every day, 30 to 45 minutes. I think that will keep your heart and lungs and respiratory system working fine. Your mobility will be good. Yoga is brilliant, of course, for mobility and stretching and keeping your knees and arthritis at bay. Very important, especially as you get older. And because people sit at chairs and computers for hours and hours and hours all day, every day, they forget to use their legs and they don't cross their legs anymore. They can't even squat down without pain in their back, right? Doing a lawnmower or the lawn mowing and the vacuuming, they get all these pains. It's just a bit of housework. You shouldn't be in pain because of that, right? So that's why I
Correct.
wrote this book. Yeah, let me show you. Actually, I wrote this book, How Squats Can Change Your Life, right? It's got a foreword by this WWE superstar, Rob Van Dam. And it's all about how to, use the flexibility in your legs so that you don't get pain later in life and stiff joints and things like that. So, yeah, some of the lifestyle things you can do. Does that help answer your question?
It does, and I got it. So habits shifting from the ego, kind of keeping you stuck. One is identify who you are. Ask yourself, who am I? And for me, I think, Raj, that kind of leans into mindset for me. What are your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs about self, about life, about how you show up? And then to clean up your diet, go more plant-based, less processed foods, 30 to 45 minutes of exercise daily, and the
Yeah,
benefits of yoga when it comes to mobility, but really finding ways that you enjoy to move every single day, not three
yeah,
times out the week, but every single day. And I think sometimes if it's intentional and you're trying to shift the habit and change your identity in someone who is moving every day, then maybe it starts three times out the week, and then it
yeah,
goes into four, then five, and you gradually get that rhythm. And you
yeah.
start finding things that you naturally, truly enjoy. And then you try things and you're like, that's not for me. And then you do
Mm,
something different. So I'm
mm,
all for it. And I think it definitely does help Raj shift from the ego, because it's first focusing on the identity. And it goes right back into knowing that the ego is so layered with so
yeah,
many different thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that come from a source that probably you didn't even have the, I don't want to say like agreements on or confirmation on, because as a young child seeds were planted, you were
yeah,
impersonated, like people made impressions upon you when
yeah,
you were growing up and trying to tell you what is right, what is wrong. They probably helped shape your relationship around food, around movement, around life, around thinking. You also brought
yeah.
in like beliefs. You know what I'm saying? When you talked about like limiting beliefs in yourself, like low self-esteem, low confidence. Again, that comes from other experiences that might have happened as a child, where you think that that's your identity when it's really not. And you can create your own identity at any day and time when you feel the need to shift. And clearly for you, that was at age 18, when you had this awakening, when you met that spiritual avatar that shook your ego and destroyed it all the way up to where you're able to change your life. But we talked about every human here is for a purpose, not just to eat and sleep and go after their own personal desires. How do we begin uncovering our purpose, especially when we feel lost in stress or in a state of survival mode constantly?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I think what needs to happen is you need an inspiration, which is more powerful than your fears, because inspiration comes from love, and love is greater than fear. Love can conquer fear. Love can take the energy of fear from negative and turn it positive, like Paulo Coelho says in The Alchemist, the book. If you read that one, so it's all about alchemy. It's all about alchemy, turning the dross into gold, turning negative into positive, turning difficult situations into positive, situations that strengthen and benefit you. So it's all about how resourceful you can be with your own mind and your thinking, and framing a challenging situation and turning it into something that gives you ultimate strength and victory within a certain time frame, if you can manage to work that out. But yes, it's a big challenge, I think. In terms of, what's your question, if you don't mind? Again, I just want to make sure I
No,
get the.
no problem at all. I was asking, how do we begin uncovering our purpose, especially when we feel lost in stress or
Yeah,
survival mode? And you
yeah,
you already hit on us needing inspiration more powerful than our fears, and that's a big one right there. Because if you're more fearful and you allow that fear type of energy and feeling to get in your spirit, it will keep you in a state of paralyzing. Like it'll
yeah.
keep you stuck and you won't move and you won't act. And then I feel like a big thing, it was something I was thinking about, I think it was yesterday, Raj, and I was having this conversation. I was just like, the confidence comes in the doing. And if you're not doing anything because you're scared or you're not sure, then you'll never figure it out. You'll never find what it is that you're looking for. It'll never work. You'll never get to that place of development and achievement and accomplishment because you
Right.
stayed where you are and you stayed stuck. So I definitely resonate with the need for inspiration that is more powerful than your fears. And then I also like that you talked about being resourceful, that you can be with your own thinking, turning something negative into the positive. And I feel like I do a pretty good job of it, Raj. And maybe it's plant-based. Maybe it's I've been on the journey for a few years and I am aware that negative thinking, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, it starts to fester in the body and it can cause more sickness and more damage that I cannot see. And even though the feeling is there, the feeling can be so much more powerful if I don't let that feeling go and find a way to transfer it into something positive. And I feel like being diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and then finding 2 small fibroids at the time of my surgery in March 2020, that 4-hour surgery really shifted my whole life because I thought I was healthy. I thought I felt okay on the outside. I thought I was doing good on the inside, but I wasn't, Raj. I was a people pleaser. I was in a toxic relationship. I wasn't in a very healthy work environment. I wasn't showing up for myself. And I thought that I could keep pushing through and show up for everybody else, but I wasn't prioritizing rest. I wasn't managing my stress. I wasn't doing all the things to truly care for me now that I know. But if I didn't have those diagnoses, my lifestyle wouldn't have changed. My life wouldn't have changed because I wouldn't understand the power that stress, that nutrition, that, you know what I'm saying? All these different relationships with self and others and with food, like how that plays a part. And so if I didn't take something that seemed negative, so many chronic conditions, which really just meant a high, deep infiltration of inflammation, if I didn't acknowledge that, I wouldn't be able to change that and then put it into a purposeful space like the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast, like showing up to help other people in chronic pain, bloating, fatigue, want them to get to a place that they move from survival to thriving. And so I totally feel you already when it comes to me. And I was just like, well, Raj, help the people out. How do they know that they still have purpose in this thing despite where they are right now in life?
That's a great, wow. That was dynamic. Jesus, God bless you. That's amazing. That was such a great like elucidation of your entire life experience there and the transition you made. Amazing. I didn't
Thank
know
you.
any of that, but thank you for sharing it. Um,
Yes.
amazing. So the thing is, I think people should latch onto their childhood dreams. So I think when we're all children, we all have kind of hope and ambition and optimism. We have a lot of energy. We're usually very joyous. I don't meet many depressed 3-year-olds, but you kids are usually
Probably in
full
the
of
moment
energy.
when they don't get what they want. That was like the most
Right,
depressing state, just in that quick
right.
moment. But after that, they're over it.
Exactly. They're just bundles of energy, and there's nothing saying that you can't maintain that kind of characteristic throughout life. No one's telling you have to shut it down. No one's saying that. You just start behaving like everyone else because they say, "Oh, you're silly if you laugh at everyone, or you laugh and you just like having fun. You're silly. You're mad. You should be in a mental home or whatever." Right. So I think kids, when you're a kid, you have these dreams. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. I want to be president. I want to be a great athlete. I want to be a superhero, whatever, right? Why are Marvel superhero films so popular? Because everybody knows deep down they have a superhero side in them. They have a superhero something, right? Everybody knows that deep down. Otherwise, these films wouldn't be so popular, right? And they should just ask themselves that question. Why do I love these films so much? Because you've got something of that in you, but you can't access it because you think you know you have it, but you don't have the courage to act like it and to behave and believe like that. That's the key. That's the problem. So people would just rather pay $20 and go watch the film instead of work on themselves and bring out the power within them, you know? So we have this discussion amongst our colleagues all the time. I say, look, life is amazing. Life can be colorful. Latch onto the dreams you had as a kid, the things that interested you. Was it dance? Was it art? Was it poetry? Was it speaking? Was it being a teacher? Was it being a great parent? You know, what was it? What was that thing that you most resonated with? Try to connect with that. And even if you do that for an hour or two a day, you know, I think you find that energy start to come back over time, you know, with momentum and consistency daily. And then you can find a way to make, you know, maybe, you know, create something online about it, or you can blog about it, you can talk about it on social media, maybe build a community, you know, and just follow your passion that way. Maybe you can monetize it in some way. And that would be a way you could probably get away from your ordinary 9 to 5 if you want to get away from that and do something more worthwhile, you know? So I think people should latch onto that dream because there's a lot of leverage there. It's a lot of power and energy that if you don't leverage yourself in that way, if you don't show up that way, if you don't position yourself that way, you're missing out big time. You're missing out. You're not leveraging. Every human being is at the ultimate leverage machine, all of us. Yet if you don't multiply that seed of belief, of that interest, of that passion into something that can consume your life with great amounts of energy and joy and strength and sharing, then you're missing the whole point. You're missing everything, you know?
We
So,
are the ultimate leverage machine.
yeah,
I like it, Raj. But firstly, latch onto your childhood dreams because you can't
yeah,
access your superpower because you lack courage. That's big right there. And like you said, like take that 1 to 2 hours a day to figure out how to dig deep and build the courage within yourself so you can ignite that superpower instead of watching everybody else. Ignite and embody their own. And people
yeah,
need you. And I used to say this all the time, Ross. Like if you're still here, the universe still needs you, the world still needs you. There's somebody out there that needs you. I had another guest on a podcast that says there's it's not 1 in a million, you're a million of one. And it's
mm,
really like how can you really find those people that need your message, that need your energy, that need your spirit, that need your love, that need your light? And it's like there's somebody out there that needs you. You don't know
yeah,
who, where, when they might need you, but they need you and you're still here. So if you're
that's
listening
right.
to this right now, drop the word courage in the comments because I want you to know that it's your courage that's going to help the next person who really needs you for you to show up for them when you show up for you. And I think
That's it.
that's the big part. But speaking of showing up, y'all, I want you to know about my upcoming live event. So if you've ever been stuck in cycles of pelvic pain, fatigue, bloating, and survival mode, it's not because you're weak. It's because your body's asking for a reset. So in my upcoming event, 5 costly mistakes keeping you stuck in pelvic pain and fatigue, how to break free naturally, I'll reveal the exact shifts that move you from hormonal chaos and inflammation into clarity, energy, and calm. So this is where the guessing ends and your healing begins. So head to the show notes and register for the upcoming live event. So Raj, here we go. You created the 3 to 3 insomnia hack. And I know so many people who struggle with insomnia. And for me, I struggled with it prior to my diagnosis a little bit, but even afterwards, because now we're into COVID and now I'm trying to wrap my mind around what I just realized what was going on in my
Mm,
body when I didn't even know any of these conditions names, what was going on. Insomnia was real. So with this insomnia hack has helped people shift out of stress and panic in under 90 seconds. What makes this breath work different, and why does it work so fast?
That's a fantastic question, and I think now in this time of humanity, of global societies, with the internet, the world's becoming smaller and smaller, which is great. It enables us to all connect up. Like any of your readers, any of your followers right now could just literally go online and find me there just by typing my name in on Google. And they can find all my work. They can find, all the articles we've done, all the podcasts we've done. They can find everything just like that, right? That's how amazing the internet is, right? And we're very grateful for that. So basically, there's a couple of fundamentals that we need to understand first. So in school, we're taught that the air that we breathe is just based on oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, and a few elements. But that doesn't mean anything to you. As a human being, that doesn't mean much to you. What means more to you is that air, this stuff that we breathe all day, every day, since the moment you first took your first breath as a baby, and when you take your last breath when you die, this stuff is actually made of light, electricity, and magnetism. Light, electricity, and magnetism. It's not just air, right? You can live for 40 days without food, 4 days without water, but only 4 minutes without breath. So if you can only live for 4 minutes without breath, it's the most important fuel for the body. All right. So why aren't people talking more about that? Right? It's fundamental. So the breath runs every single system in your body. Your bones, your circulation, your respiratory system, your endocrine system, your muscular system. All of these systems are run by the breath. And that breath is this invisible, miraculous life current that we're taking in and out all day, every day, even when you're sleeping. That breath is working for you. Like, how amazing is that? Incredible. Right?
Very amazing.
Yeah.
And I do
So,
feel like we take a lot for granted in this thing
yeah.
called life. The movement of our body, and you just talked about that earlier, like to not be intentional on how we move, and you're only given one body to do basic things with it. And then to think about the breath itself. And there's so much air around us. Even if the air isn't the best quality of air, what are you doing to even maximize, appreciate, and ignite yourself with the breath that you have, the air that's within your body versus what's out? So I'm with you right now. But when you say the breath runs every system in the body, like bring it back. Sometimes I feel like people need a reality check, Raj, like because we're not as humble as we think we are, and we take so much for granted that it needs to be brought to our attention how powerful things are, even when it comes to choosing the foods we eat, and realizing what we're consuming and what we're putting in our body, the impacts that it gives. And I don't feel like we value our body, ourselves, our life enough, because if we did, we would make different decisions. And at the end of the day, life is nothing but choices. And how you make those choices. But go ahead.
Absolutely. I think, to preface that, the Insomnia Hack, I think, I was the same in the sense that I didn't know that I didn't know.
Right.
That I should investigate these things further, because in the society here, they don't encourage that. So I'm just going along with everyone else. Yeah.
And
the
when
only
you
difference,
don't, Raj, you start to feel they place you out on the outcast and make you feel like you're doing something so abnormal once you do know better and you're deciding to make a different decision when so many other people aren't making that decision. It's not as common, even though it should. And I feel like sometimes that gives people that hesitation to really go after things once they found that revelation, once they become more aware, to really go out and act on it and stand on it and shift that belief, and not just play with it and do a little tilt with the thoughts, the feelings, and the belief, but go ahead and shift it all the way and create this new life for yourself. And I feel like once people do that and they start to feel the benefits, it's so much easier to keep leaning in that direction and living more with purpose and living more with love, because you start to break out that survival mode and you start to figure out how to thrive each day, day by day, and appreciate it in so many different ways. And so I'm glad that you kind of broke that into perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as you said earlier, when we talk about love, you talk about, what is unconditional love, what is the core of being a human being. You have to align yourself with that principle. The avatars, they teach this. They say, look, the fundamental thing that God cares about the most is unconditional love. It means also care, compassion, kindness, wisdom, sharing. If you don't have these qualities, or you don't act this way, you're not acting like a proper human should. And when the avatars say I would ask the question, why are you saying all this? Why are you teaching this? So look, we don't want humans to suffer. I'm like, so interesting. The government doesn't tell us this. The school system doesn't tell us this. The medical system doesn't tell us this. So do they want us to suffer then? You're telling all these secrets of the cosmos, plain and simple. You want everyone to be happy and free and joyous and enjoy their life. And yet the systems that we're born in, they never tell you this once, not even once. Right? Not clearly, not explicitly. They just kind of beat around the bush. Right? This is nonsense. So you talk about love, and I'll talk about this, the breath and how that relates to things as well. But when we come out with these podcasts and we say, look, we want everyone to be happy, we want everyone to be joyous, we want everyone to fulfill their potential, it doesn't take away anything from any of us if we all do that. Right? There's plenty for everyone. Plenty. They say in America alone, they have enough wood and concrete and materials to build a house for every man, woman, and child on the planet. In America alone. Right? So how can we say that there's not enough food, there's not enough this, there's not enough clothing? There's plenty for everyone, and plenty of money as well. Right? It's just that the distribution is wrong, because people have desires which are a bit too egomaniacal, so they want to keep everything for themselves, and they don't distribute, and they don't care for others. So everything gets topsy-turvy.
Goes back to the ego.
Yeah, exactly. That's a narrow-minded ego. But the problem is this: a lot of people don't think long-term. If you gatekeep, or you try to hoard things, there's a penalty price to pay for that. Don't think you're going to get away with it, in the sense that, don't be scared, but we're being watched. Whether you believe it or you don't, you're being watched by a higher power 24/7. So as long as you're on the right side of the law, moral code, you're good, you're golden. But if you're not, you better watch out and try to make some alignments before karma hits you hard, right? So anyway, we're telling all these things because we love people. We understand that you have to understand these principles and these core ideas in order to live a happy life. So where the breathing method comes into it is that we know there's 800 to 1 billion people in the world with insomnia.
That's a lot of people.
It's
a lot of people.
It is. That's 1/10 of the world's population, right? With sleeping disorders or insomnia. That's terrible. So luckily, though, our method, it's a quick, easy way to leverage brain hormones such as endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, which are anti-inflammatory, feel-good, happy hormones. It also activates what's called anandamide. A lot of people don't know what anandamide is. Ananda comes from the Sanskrit word bliss, which means happiness, ultimate joy, ultimate joy. And believe it or not, Jovonnie, all humans have a bliss molecule in their brain. So why are we designed to have a bliss molecule in our brain if we're not meant to be happy? Right? Yeah. So there's the point. And now a lot of humans will live and die on this planet and not realize the maximum extent of joy and happiness they could have experienced. Because they weren't able to access this anandamide bliss hormone in their brain. Right? So this method also, as well as activating anandamide, also activates the vagus nerve, which is a very important part of the parasympathetic nervous system for rest, digest, healing from trauma, healing from surgery, healing from pain, deep sleep, and all those things. If you're not able to dial into the parasympathetic, you're always going to be in freeze, fight, flight, excess cortisol, excess adrenaline, fear, worry, upset, disarray, chaos, right? And meds. If you go to the doctors, they'll give you meds after meds after meds and pills, and you will never get better. You will never get better because your state of mind is still focused externally and you're rushing around like a headless chicken. Whereas you should spend 2 or 3 hours a day in self-care mode, right? Relaxing, doing meditation, doing a journaling, doing painting, listening to music, dancing, taking care of yourself. Every human should spend at least 3 to 4 hours every day in that mode, right? Every day. Then you're going to have a nice balance of parasympathetic and sympathetic. And so when you go out the next day, you're going to feel good. You've dialed in your experiences, you've digested everything, everything looks cool, and you're ready for another day.
So I have this thing came into my mind when you said that, and I wrote it down. State of mind is more externally than it is internally, and you should be giving yourself 3 to 4 hours to truly be in this state. And I just heard somebody, and I don't know if it's the listener that just is going to hear me ask this question, but what if they say, I don't have 3 to 4 hours to really focus on being in this state? Like, what are you talking about? I have so much to do, so many people to show up for, so many things to manage. I don't have 3 to 4 hours. What would you say to the listener that just heard you say that they need to create at least 3 to 4 hours to be in this state, to give their vagus nerve system, get into that bliss molecule activation to feel good and to really address those brain hormones that they've been forgetting because their brain has been going on fight and flight mode with all these other things going on in their mind, besides the fact that they need to care and love for themselves and give themselves the time, the 3 to 4 hours, just to feel safe, because maybe they don't. What would you tell that listener right now, Raj?
Well, you see, the thing is, you've got to take a broader look at your life and your lifestyle and say, what's my priorities? Is my priority chaos and disarray and conflict, or is it peace, happiness, and joy? And do I want to die in this state of erratic emotion and unfinished business with my family, with my wife, with my kids? Or do I want to be happy, blissful, and joyful and creative now? It's a choice. You can make that choice. So what's more important to you? You could need to weigh up your priorities. You could write it down on a notepad or on your phone or whatever and say, this is what I want. This is how life is now. This is what I want. This is the ideal life. And I can make certain steps in my lifestyle to move over to the joyous, more balanced state and say, this is my priorities now. I don't go out drinking. I don't go to parties. I'm just saying anyone could do this for themselves. I don't waste time with people who are gossiping about nothing, right? This is all just giving me agitation and grief. Now, if I move over to, I'll do meditation, I'll go yoga for 1 hour a week or 1 hour a day, or listen to nice music, or do some art, or do some journaling. I'll eat some nice food. I'll meet a wonderful friend. I'll read a spiritual book. There's so many things you can do to give yourself that peace, and you're not losing time. You're actually creating more time because you're nourishing your soul, right? You're caring. That's love. If you don't have self-love, how are you going to love anyone else if you don't have it yourself, right? Everyone needs time and private space and reflection to feel good and connect with the source, because the source is always there. But do you have a relationship with it or not, right? So God doesn't expect us to act like headless chickens, not at all. But you need to be clear on your priorities in terms of your health. Are you happy? Are you peaceful? Are you calm? Are you enjoying your life or not? If you're not, then you can make decisions to get on that side of things for yourself. Very important.
I like it, Raj. And thank you for breaking that down and giving options, yoga, meditation, journaling, eating a good, nourishing meal. So you're
Mm,
nourishing your body, reading a book, and that you're not really losing time and trying to figure out where to find this time, but you're truly creating time
mm,
to nourish your soul. And I think that's big because so many times people see getting more sleep as maybe lazy. And I just don't have time for that because I have so many other things that I need to do. But be able to say that you're creating time to nourish your soul, that looks different. And there's different activities that you can do within the 3 to 4 hour time frame to
mm,
truly
mm,
show up for yourself throughout the day. Doesn't necessarily say you got 4 hours you need to block out and that's just all you're doing for those 4 hours. But how are you intentionally for 3 to 4 hours showing up for yourself and being
mm,
present in the moment to nourish your soul? And are you choosing to be happy and calm, or are you choosing chaos and confusion? And what are you allowing that to feed into yourself and in those
mm.
environments that you are? Because again, it goes right back to choice. And so I really appreciate you breaking that down for us, Raj. And so you coach women from all over the world who come to you lost in their
Yeah.
habits. What do you notice is that number one pattern kind of keeping them stuck, and how do you help them break through?
Well, you know, it's fascinating. It really is because I've studied. Just so people know that why do I study all these things? I study them because I want to help people. I study them because I want to make people's lives better. I study
Yes.
them because I'm truly passionate about human potential, and I know that we can do way better if we just knew more. So I studied, as you know, metaphysics, yoga, philosophy, psychology, anthropology, social sciences, humanities, law, and religion, and all these things. Why? Because I want to help people, have systems whereby they can create the ideal lifestyle for themselves and become self-sustaining. So back to your question, if you could just give me a quick reminder.
Yes, sir. I was asking you what
Yeah.
was that number one pattern keeping most of the women you coach stuck, and how do you help them break through? And it
Yeah.
sounded like you're giving them a place to create systems that keep them
Yes.
sustainable within their life. But I'm
Correct.
listening. That what's
Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
number one pattern that's they're stuck with in that state that they come to you in, and then now we know what you have studied to
Absolutely.
help them create systematic.
Absolutely. I think it's a big one. I think it's self-esteem, lack of
Mm,
confidence, lack of self-esteem. Because if you lack self-esteem, you're not going to know where to put your boundaries. And if you don't put your boundaries down, people are going to walk all over you. It's just human nature. And when they do that, you don't know how far to push back, and even if you should push back. So that becomes very complicated. Over time, it just compounds and gets worse and worse and worse. So what I do when it comes to women, or if they want to do the couples coaching, because I do couples coaching as well, I have them both in the room or both on the Zoom call or whichever format, and I'll talk to both of them and say, look, you want to be together. You really, you have a strong relationship in many ways, but what is failing you right now? What is it? It's an opinion. It's a viewpoint. Is it something you can reconcile on? In 5 years from now, is it going to matter? Like, take a bigger time frame perspective and see, would you prefer harmony or would you prefer war under the same roof? What do you want? Right. And when you put it that way, I think it helps give people clarity and say, yeah, you know what, this relationship is too precious. I just want to work on it, bridge the gap, build better communication, and reconcile the differences, and let's go to heaven together. Just walk that nice pleasant road. It can be done, but it has to be agreement on both sides, right? So that's where having enough wisdom to guide the relationships forward, it helps to just fill in what they're missing or what they're not seeing as a blind spot. We all have blind spots. So I have a coach as well. So when people have me as a coach, I can use that wisdom to benefit them, and so they can see their blind spots. And I'm not making their choice for them. It's up to them, but understand what's going on so that you're more informed to make a decision for yourself. You know. And then they will always, when I put it that way, they always say, Raj, what would you do if it was you? And then I will tell them my personal thing if they want that. That's, you know.
I get you. And I think it's a very important space when coaching and guiding people, is to allow them to truly make their own choice and really just helping them get that, like you said, clarity, confidence, and have the conversation to make themselves aware of things that they might not have truly been aware of until they were asked the question, and to better articulate what it is. I think one of the biggest things for me, one of my first coaching clients, her big thing was like, I thought, like at the end, she was like, I thought you were going to tell me what to eat. And I said, no, I said, and I'm not that type of coach, because I don't ever want you to feel like you have to come to me first to figure out what to eat, and you don't trust yourself with making that decision. And so I'm always here to help you plan out your empowered plates and plan out your meals in going in the direction of your health and the goals that you set for yourself. And I'm here to help you bring context to that. But I don't want to be the person to tell you what to eat, because then you'll always look for me and you'll become dependent on me and my choice and my decision. But what it looks like, my healing is my journey. Your healing is your journey. And I want you to own this experience. And she understood it at the end. But, you know, I don't want people to become dependent on me. I want to help them navigate the decision-making process and truly own this journey, because their coaching experience doesn't go for life. You know, it's really at that particular point in time, because a good coach is able to, like you said, give you the systems, give you the frameworks, the formulas, help you build sustainability, get you on a sustainable path. And then you're able to do the things that you need to do. And all the rest of it is just maintenance. You know, it's just, how do I maintain and what do I want to level up from there? And then that becomes the journey. And so I'm really glad that you brought that into perspective, because there's so many people who be like, well, I don't need a coach. You know, I just need to eat better and go exercise. But like you said, it's the blind spots, the things that you don't know that you need to know, that's probably keeping you stuck, that's probably still keeping you in pain, that's probably keeps putting you in this cycle, that you are in this loop that you can't break out of, because you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know when you're actually surviving and when you're actually moving to a place of thriving. Because you can do different things consistently doesn't necessarily mean that it's addressing the things that you really want to address in your life and in your body. And sometimes you need that person to see those blind sides to help you out. And so I think that's the reason why I really love being a healthy habits and lifestyle coach, and I get excited about it, and I can't wait to help more people, just because I know people don't know what they don't know. And Raj, once you know it, you be like, well, do people know that already? Like, should I tell them, or do they already know? And I heard that you should lean on the side that nobody knows anything. Just like when you met that spiritual avatar, no one truly knows anything. And if you're leading with the nobody knows anything, then you're not so hesitant to just share what you do know, to help people get those quick wins, to help them, because they may not use it right then and there, but they might lean into it, get curious. And that's the whole reason why I have the Empowered Plates and Empowered Lives podcast too, is as we talk and we share our experiences and our expertise and our journeys, get just enough curious that you go and do your own research, and then you decide, is this something I want to, you know, adopt and see how it fits in my lifestyle, or is it something I want to stay away from? But at least it was valuable enough to make you think about who you are and where you are and what is possible. And people need to know what is possible, because sometimes they just feel like, wherever I am in life, whatever diagnosis I have, this is just what life is going to look like for me for the rest of my life. And I don't want them to believe that, because that is far from the truth. And so I really love that you hit on the confidence and the clarity. But the number one pattern that you're seeing people stuck with when it comes to their habits is their self-esteem. And when they get those quick wins, they build their confidence to where they can then start establishing boundaries and really get that clarity to move forward and create the systems that you're able to put in place. You talked about it earlier with us, with me on the pre-call, and you told me without principles, we are lost. What are a few of your favorite life principles that listeners can begin living today?
Wow, that's deep. Yeah, it's a big one. I think I have this conversation with my colleagues and a lot of my clients all the time. I'll tell you an interesting insight, and then we'll get into this principles question. What I find when I'm dealing with higher net worth individuals, we're all human, so for me it's the same. But when you deal with higher net worth individuals, what I find really interesting is they value their time more than their money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because they want value of life experience. People who are not so well off in that regard, they value money more than time. So they have a different mindset, and they would rather save money and spend time, whereas time is the real currency of life, because you can make more money when you need to, but you can't make more time. So what would you rather do? Spend money to save time and have better life experiences, or would you rather save money and be in the dark because you're not willing to spend a bit of money to learn or to get a coach or whatever? So what I find interesting is that you were saying earlier, that, and I do this as well, where I lead people to make their own choices. But what I find interesting about wealthy people is that they will ask me explicitly, Raj, what would you do if you were me? And I know why they say that, because they want to save time and get to the bottom line fast. And I completely understand that, because they want to get over the problem, finish it off, get the correct idea from someone who knows what they're doing, and they will pay 10 times the amount for that solution if you can deliver it quickly, because speed is everything for them. And I'm like, that's so interesting. That is so interesting how, you see that contrast in people, in how they see their lives. We're all human beings. We're all valuable, precious, infinite. But it's so interesting when you have people with resources, how they would um, prioritize their lives, and people who don't have the resources, how they prioritize their lives. It's a fascinating, contrast. But getting back to your question about principles, I'll give you a nice little model that you can use. You can use this lifelong. It's reliable, 100% watertight. We're massive on paradigms. As you know, paradigm comes from the Greek word paradigma, which means to view or to have a vision of, or to see, point of view. So what I find really useful is called the six-fold hierarchy, right? Nice and simple, six-fold hierarchy, right? So it goes like this. First is spirit, number one. Then second is the soul, and then which we have, soul. Third is the mind, right? Now, the interesting thing is the spirit, the soul, and the mind, they're invisible, but they control everything that is visible, meaning your body, your senses, and the world, right? Without the spirit, the soul, and the mind, you would have no body, no senses, and no world. But the funny thing is, because they're invisible, everyone debates whether they're real or not.
Mm.
And the point is, it's not up for debate. It exists whether you know it or you don't, whether you like it or you don't. And that's what makes this model watertight, because it's not based on my opinion. It's based on fact, right? So I'll tell you where the problem is, Jovonnie. When people from the mind, if they don't turn the mind up towards the soul and spirit, it now turns itself downwards into the body, the senses, and the world. And now you think the world is all real and there's nothing else. You think that's the only reality, but that's a very dangerous place to be, because all your energy is going to be externalized and you're forgetting about your internal source in soul and spirit and the mind, because you don't understand the mind is the doorway to your true connection with source in the soul and the spirit. You see, so this principle is one of the most powerful, easy to explain ones that people, when I explain it, they have that epiphany. That's why I was so misguided for so long. I was not carrying the heaven within me. I was not aware and conscious of it, even though it was with me 24/7. Yeah, that's the story of the prodigal son, right? He ran away, got mixed up in all kinds of things. He forgot God was watching him the whole time, right? So I think this principle, whether it's relationships with men, women, children, you can teach them this same principle and they will never go wrong if they understand to turn the mind up towards the soul and the spirit. You still have the world. The world's still your playground. Belongs to all of us. Doesn't belong to anyone. It belongs to all of us just the same. You'll still have your body and you'll still have the senses. You'll still have them. I still have them. But I don't emphasize that as my reality. I emphasize my mind, my soul, and my spirit as my real reality on a day-to moment by moment basis. That is my life. Yeah. I still enjoy everything else, but my senses don't put me astray. My body doesn't tell me what to do. I tell my body what to do. Body's just flesh and bone. Why is that going to tell me what to do? And the earth is there for you to dominate your piece of earth in the sense of create something beautiful on it, make a beautiful garden, make a beautiful house, all beautiful things. That's what you're supposed to do. So I hope that principle helps.
It does. First of all, everybody drop time in the comments. Time is the real currency of life. I really love that. That gem that you dropped, Raj. Like, it was really good. And then I love the principles, the 6-hole hierarchy. And I like that you talked about numbers 1 through 3 really being invisible, spiritual, soul, and mind. And they're the most important for us to focus on. And it's what truly shapes our reality. And then it impacts what is visible, and that's your body, your senses, and the world. And so I'm grateful that you broke down those principles in order for us to truly capture what it really means to be in essence of the invisible and the power that those things have, your spirit, your soul, and your mind. And when it comes to the body, the senses, and the world. And it makes sense, Raj. For me, it does, because for me, changing my lifestyle, I call it my M to the 3rd degree healing empowerment formula: mindset, mindful eating, and movement. And as I continue to move around in the wellness space, and I hear other people have their pillars, mindset is always the biggest part, because it's your thoughts, your feelings, and your beliefs, and it shapes your behaviors. It determines what you choose and how you behave, which creates your lifestyle. And that lifestyle then affects your body, your senses, and your world. And so, like, being able to hear you break that down, it was like, okay, I see the connection of how it all kind of, like, comes together when it comes to lifestyle, when it comes to how you're living, and how, even if you feel like it's starting with your body. Let's say for me, it started with that endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and fibroids. It started in my body, but it made me aware that I needed to now focus on what I've been neglecting: the spirit, the soul, and the mind, in order for my world to change, and my senses to change in regards to my habits and how I care for my body and what I now view as life. And so that to me was definitely like transformative. And I'm glad that you broke that down. So what advice do you have for someone listening who feels overwhelmed by the noise of the world and just wants to feel at peace again, Raj?
I think quick, easy win. A lot of people, if I could mention, call it a plug, but I don't know. People just, they're getting our program online now at 33 Insomnia Hack. And in that program, it's like $97. But what it teaches you is how to get that parasympathetic nervous system, peace, relax, rest and digest, get that dialed in first. And then everything takes its proper place and proportion. So if you're stressed out, whether you're a single mom, whether you have addiction problems, whether you're a stressed out executive, if you use the 3-3 hack, you're going to be able to get so much peace of mind and joy and perspective very, very quickly. It's quicker than most other methods. And I think once you try it and you realize that, oh yeah, I can really feel amazing at any time, without drugs, without doctors, without hospitals. And I can do it in my home right now, right? You don't need melatonin. You don't need anxiety blankets. You don't need super thick curtains or whatever to keep out the light. You don't even need a sleep mask. You don't. You can put all of that away and just do this, because it releases all the brain hormones directly in your own brain, because you have a lot of power in your brain. but because you're never taught how to access it, you never know that you have all the solutions within yourself. So by getting the quick wins, getting the program, and people will email in, they'll WhatsApp us, and they'll ask us more questions. So I think that understanding how that works and applying it, more importantly, applying it to yourself, is going to get you to a way better elevation where you can make changes easier.
I like it. All right, Raj. So we call this the Vitality Sparks round. All right. So quick fire round offering lightning insight with heart. All right. You ready?
Yep.
All right. So what's one thing you've learned about the breath that most people don't know but need to?
It's the key to the full expansion of your consciousness and your awareness and your knowledge.
Right. What's a principle that guides your life daily?
I'm a child of the infinite.
Finish this sentence. When I'm living in alignment, I feel
incredible.
What's one sacred no that created more peace in your life?
What's one secret?
One sacred note that created more peace in your life?
The Almighty is always with me. There you go.
If listeners took one breath with intention today, what would you want them to think, feel, or remember in that moment?
I am peace, I am joy, I am bliss.
All right, last two questions, Raj. Give some insight to the girl dads, the father figures, the role models of those struggling with heavy periods, pelvic pain, bloating, hormonal chaos, endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids. How can males, be brought into that healing journey, that support system, and be a part of this?
That's a great question. And luckily, we're seeing patients that doctors have even given up on. And they say, how are you able to get better results than us? I say, because I eliminate all the meds, all the drugs, all the endless fear and tests and all that stuff. And I use the breath to get people into a neuroplastic state, which means the mind is now more suggestive, a kind of hypnotic state, but it's very effective. And we also dial in the parasympathetic nervous system so people feel relaxed. It's the state of healing. And we also elicit theta brainwave states, which again get a person feeling very peaceful, very relaxed. Their sleep is deeper. And a lot of these conditions that you just talked about, after 3 months working with us, they begin to vanish. They begin to disappear. Because all these pains are based on inflammation. When you have inflammation because you have acidity in your blood. When you turn acidity into alkalinity, then all the disease processes stop developing and they disappear. This is the key. I've not been sick for 23 years. I've not taken medicine for 23 years. I've not seen a doctor, had an ultrasound or an MRI or an X-ray for 23 years because of these things that we're talking about today.
Yes, sir. So, thank you. Yes. Last question. If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you all eat?
Can we say Jesus Christ?
You can, and it has been said before, so
yeah. Let's say Jesus Christ, and I'll have a cheese sandwich. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, Raj. So let everybody know where they can find you and connect with you.
Awesome. So yeah, you can go to the 33insomniahack.com. And there you can email us, you can WhatsApp us, you'll find our phone number on there. We get messages all the time about all types of conditions and so on. You can buy the program. You've got tutorials on there that teach you everything, and that helps you understand the modality. And then if you want to go deeper for further transformations, then you can just message us. We're more than happy to help further.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Raj. Thanks for an empowering conversation. Thanks for the vibes and the value. I greatly appreciate it. So, y'all, in a world that rewards hustle and burnout, what would it look like to build a life around peace, purpose, and powerful breath? It's your Healthy Habits and Lifestyle Coach Jovonnie, host of the Empowered Place, Empowered Lives podcast. It's been another episode. Thanks for vibing with me, y'all.